Good afternoon on what is a grey, overcast but changeable day. It is Thursday, August the 18th, and I'm in the mood for a nice hot cup of tea. And some parcels to unbox. So, I'm going to unbox this one. Sorry, the glue. Sorry, just trying to. There we go. So the glue on these boxes is really kind of. Okay, the box is now stuck on my hand, but I'm just. There we go. Sorry about that. So I'm going to see what this is. Okay. There we go. It is the Sullenlands Adventure Omnibus and Guide for Dungeon Crawl Classics. This is published by Purple Sorcerer Games, who support Dungeon Crawl Classics, the role-playing game published by Goodman Games, which is a retro clone of Dungeons & Dragons style play, but heavily inspired by the Appendix N, which appeared in the Dungeon Master's Guide for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 1st edition. So, the Sullenlands Adventure Omnibus and Guide. 4 exciting Dungeon Crawl Classic adventures and more. This guide contains all of Mark Bishop's best-selling adventures, Nebin Pendlebrooke's Perilous Pantry, the Frost Frang Expedition, and the Crypt in Cadaver Canyon into a single massive tome. The adventures are enhanced with over 100 pages of new material, including real details of the mysterious Sullenlands, a new patron, a Dwarven Cat Cleric class, a new mini-adventure, the Bellows of Brome Forge, new monsters, magic items, random encounters, random tables, and more. A new world of danger and wonder awaits. There we go. So earlier I did actually just do an unboxing of another book from Purple Sorcerer Games, which was The Second City. This is the second one I had from them. I look forward to see what this is like. This isn't in colour, unlike the other one. It's in black and white. And opens up with essentially describes itself as a Dungeon Crawl Classics RPG campaign resource featuring 4 full adventures, cities, thieves, guilds, new monsters, magic items, and a host of random tables. So we get into the author's introduction. Okay. So that's quite explaining context and sort of background to the scenarios. Before we get into the first one, which is Nebin Pendlebrooke's Perilous Pantry. And it's great to see that one in print, because it's one I have actually run for a couple of groups as their first character funnel. Now, a character funnel in Dungeon Crawl Classics is where you play 0 level characters, but not one, usually 3 or 4, and you go through an adventure that would typically challenge a first level character and hope that one or more of your characters survives. If one of them does, it gains enough experience points to essentially acquire first level and a class. But before then, it has to survive the adventure, and it has survived that adventure on the basis of essentially of luck and ingenuity, and that's about it. Because on the whole, your dice rolls are against you. What's interesting is for some groups, they don't know what the 2 groups that I run Nebin Pendlebrooke's Perilous Pantry for, they had no idea what a funnel was, and they thought, why have I got 4 characters? Why are they 0 level? And they found out, they said it is a dungeon. I am playing 4 characters, and they quickly sort of like what happens when you do it is you start building relationships up about your 4 characters, finding out who they are. and working out the relations between the 4 characters, whether they like them, whether they hate them, and then the same again with the other player characters. And it's all, and that gets quite a lot of fun. Now, essentially, in Nebin Penderbrook's Perilous Pantry, the eponymous halfling discovers a hole in his pantry, goes to investigate, and disappears. And you have to go in and go after him and find out what's going on, and go deep into the dungeon below. And it's a mini dungeon which you could run for first level characters, so there's always that option. But there's actually quite a lot going on, and there's mysteries and secrets and things to discover. Essentially, such as a stick that says "Help me." That confounded my player characters a couple of times. And really, with this sort of thing, it's a case of sort of like just being. It's a mixture of playing it through, being cautious, and throwing yourself into it, hoping that you will survive. So yeah, Neb and Penderbrook's Perilous Pantry is a classic funnel. It's actually a lot of fun, and it's worth checking out. Just to see what they look like, and then and as a feature of Dungeon Crawl Classics, it's almost, you are almost presented with just too many funnels to choose from, because you can get too, you can sort of like, you can get funneled out, as it were. So quite a lot of detailed adventure in there, and hopefully you will return with some money and some survive, and a handout and some details on how to run the game, moving things along, judging tips and so on. Before we get on to the Frost Fang expedition, which is a first level an adventure for first level, in which the player characters have to venture from the village of Netherthors near the icy peak of the Frost Fang Mountains. A mysterious castle floats among the clouds, so you have to go and investigate. So we've got basically a guide on how to run it. You've got a history of the Netherthors, and you do have a figure in here. I'm seeing the name Dagon, which doesn't bode well. But here first we've got the Frosted Tankard, we've got the ye old inn, or tavern, and here we've got Dagon on the hourglass. Now that doesn't bode well. But you've got plenty of basic background and so on. People and places of the Netherthors. There's a player introduction, notes and so on to get you started, and the player characters involved. Increasing basically start the adventure along with optional NPCs as well, because you're always going to need those. And here we are with essentially the plan. It's a wilderness adventure, but fairly linear because you're going up a mountain, and there's not a lot of deviation from that. And, you have a couple of locations along the way, like the Ardok Hall of Remembrance, and along with the mines of Ardok, so a dwarven mine to look into along the way. So there's a quick adventure in there before they climb the Devil's Stairway. So I'm just feeding through so we can see anything more. Let's see if we've got a map I can show you. Oh yes, here we go. The Tunnels of Frost Fang. There we go. So you've really got quite a linear adventure, but sort of like a linear overall adventure, but you've got mini adventures along the way. So encountering things like the Ugnoid encampment, adventure notes, the Ugnoid dragon room, the bridge, the crossover. And then we get to the Dagon's castle on the outer walls. Basically encountering a sentient tree that really doesn't like adventurers. It also appears. Right, and into the cloud castle itself. Let's see if there's a... and we've got rules in here also for the treasure. And spell duels simplified, because that's one of the features of the wizard class in Dungeon Crawl Classics, is that you can have mage duels. And we've got Dagon's amulet as a big treasure. Malatok patron. So lots of information here that sort of like you can build around into your campaign. And lastly, a really nice touch, Appendix E, linking it to Nebin Cunderbrook. So you can actually start playing through this as a campaign, do the first one, survive, and go on to do this scenario, which is great. You don't always get that with Dungeon Crawl Classics. You kind of go, it's a funnel, brilliant, I've done this one, where do I go next? And you just pick up a random scenario. But this is, does link it in through, or give guides to it. And then we have a scenario for second level characters, The Crypt in Cadaver Canyon, an instant action Dungeon Crawl Classics adventure. And this takes place beyond the Bleaklands desert. Head from the sun's unrelenting gaze in the shadows of Crimson Cavern lies the remarkable wanderer known as the City in the Cliffs. We don't have an overarching sort of like opinion, so we've actually switched here from an icy, frost-rimmed or frost-rimed mountain to a desert. So possibly a bit of travel involved there. We have locations within the city as well. Beginning the journey to the Crypt of the Cadaver Canyon. Quite a vibrant sort of like boulder map there. And going down Scratch River to the dried riverbed. Where they will encounter to the sanctum of Agregar the Queasy. Yes, even saying it doesn't sound exactly settled, does it? And then riding the rapids, encountering the Mantis folk. So it's a river journey again. I mean, you've had a trip up the mountain, now you've got a trip down the river. And you get to river ends, and you find out what's going on. Where you suffer the Night of the Warthog. My. And there's plot twists and confronting Boulder Attack, the Burning Warthog. So slightly bonkers, but what do you expect? And you also have appendix of further appendices. You've got continued adventures and desert encounters, as well as notes for the judge. So quite well, basically well appointed. We've got a good map for the player characters, for the players to see. And yeah, more handouts and details as well. There we go. Before we get on to Life on the Sullenlands campaign guide, so we do actually have sort of like a campaign area as well, so you can actually sort of put all these adventures in relation to each other. So yeah, you've got the Frostfang Mountains up here, and then down here you have the City in the Cliffs. And some of these areas are actually kind of left blank and unnamed, so there's scope there also for the judge to add her own content. So, you know, we've got things like travelling the Sullenlands, the people of the Sullenlands, all of which can be used to sort of like colour the NPCs and also the player characters. And there are things like there's a god mist that descends, the god mist, and the god mist felled casting table, so you don't necessarily want to miscast your spells whilst in the mist. And what happens when you are all lost in the god mist? You've even got a god mist table for heathens who don't believe in the god mist, presumably. Basically overview of the various different locations. The Elder Cliffs, nice map as well, and the ruling classes and so on, stuff like that. General background, history of a hiring tree. So that's obviously a location where the player characters can go and get jobs and then go on adventures. And then we have the rules for the dwarf and the cleric, because in Dungeon World Classics, dwarves are dwarves. They're not clerics, they're not fighters. They're kind of really sort of like, the dwarves are mostly warriors. Or essentially all warriors. Warriors first, and what they worship after that probably is not quite so important. But here you have a patron, Greythak the Bearded Anvil. So you've got, you know, as a patron for the Dwarven Cleric, so including rules for invoking the patron check results and disapproval table for Greythak. So it's all there. You've got cleric spells as well, Hammer of the Gods and Greythak's Battle Cry and Knight of the Bearded Anvil. So just a few spells always for the patron, just to colour the spells available. And then we get on to the Judge's Toolbox for the Sullenlands, including festivals, holidays, the Thieves Guilds, travelling bard and alchemical herbs and so on. Even the Ballad of Grom, something to give to your player characters, or, you know, or potentially even sing if you have a good enough voice, or even not. Bestiary as well, so abandoned disciplines, golf harpies, northern elm witches, lungfishes. Again, you've got really sort of like quite a small campaign area with that map. But again, this is all adding colour and flavour and detail. So random items pilfered by a pickpocket. Make use of your 30-sided die. Random quests for hiring available excuse me, from the hiring tree. That uses your 16-sided die. And then you've got tips on tying the adventures together. So that's really development of the first two adventures, which we're going, you know, how to connect this one to Neb and Pendlebury's Perilous Pantry. And this expands on that, and that's really nice. Before we get to them, there's supposed to be another adventure down here. And this is the Eminent of the Old Oak. All the bellows of Broomforge or Bromforge, which you can add in there. So you've got a mini dungeon for the judge to run. Rather nice illustration of the old dwarf himself. I do like that. So yeah, really quite good. Nice little book there for Dungeon Crawl Classics. So yeah, that's the Sullenlands Adventure Omnibus and Guide. Basically a mini campaign for Dungeon Crawl Classics, and there aren't very many of those. But this one is readily accessible on Drive-Thru RPG. So, I hope you have enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, then please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, I appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me out here with a parcel, and a book or game which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea, then please do hit that subscribe button. Thanks again for watching this unboxing of the Nook. I'll be back soon with another one. Bye for now.